Talladega Superspeedway Garage Area. October 1966. Hot, tense afternoon. A circle of NASCAR's highest officials, led by Bill France Sr. himself, stands around Smokey Yunick's black and gold Chevrolet Chevelle number 13. Templates are everywhere. Metal jigs pressed against the roof. Go/no-go gauges sliding over fenders. Rulers checking wheel openings, spoiler height, every critical dimension in the book. They measure once. They measure twice. They measure a third time, then a fourth. Every single check passes clean. Yet every man there knows in his gut that this car is impossible. It sits lower. It looks narrower. The greenhouse seems tighter. The whole body appears shrunk. Crew chiefs walking past stop dead. One mutters, "That ain't a full-size car. That's gotta be 7/8 scale or something." Smokey leans against the fender, cigar glowing, arms crossed, wearing that trademark half-smirk that says he's already won. The head inspector finally explodes. "Smokey, what the hell did you do to this thing?" Smokey shrugs. "I just built it smaller. Figure it out." Silence. Then chaos. They tear into it for days. More measurements, more templates, more arguments. Still, every official check says legal. In the end, NASCAR does something they almost never do. They ban the car outright. No detailed public explanation. No specific rules cited. No admission of exactly what was wrong. Just a quiet order. This car will never turn a wheel in competition. To this day, December 2025 and counting, NASCAR has never fully explained what Smokey did to that Chevelle. No official report. No technical breakdown. No confession from the man himself. Welcome to Torque Saga, where we refuse to let the greatest motorsport mysteries stay buried. This is the story of the Smokey trick even NASCAR never explained. A trick so perfectly hidden in the gray area of the rulebook that the sanctioning body couldn't prove it illegal, so they simply erased it from history. A car that delivered better aero, lower weight, sharper handling, and possibly hidden fuel capacity, all while passing every single template test thrown at it. Old-timers still argue over late-night beers. Was it acid-dip panels? Selective shrinking? Offset mounting points? Clever curvature that fooled flat templates? The full truth died with Smokey? Or maybe it's still locked away in some forgotten notebook. But today, we're going deeper than anyone has before, piecing together eyewitness accounts, rare photos, insider whispers, and the few clues Smokey dropped over the years. Because some mysteries deserve to be chased, even if they're never fully solved. Strap in, this one's still a mystery today, and it's about to blow your mind all over again. Let's hunt for the truth. The late 1960s were the golden age of the NASCAR factory wars. Chevrolet, Ford, Dodge, and Pontiac were pouring millions into Grand National racing, building massive teams, private wind tunnels, and secret test sessions. The cars were still called stock, but everyone knew they were anything but. Aero was becoming king. Fuel mileage could win 500-mile races. Weight distribution decided who came off corners first. Every ounce, every inch, every square foot of frontal area mattered more than ever. NASCAR's answer was the template system. Metal jigs that represented the factory body lines of each approved model. Bring your car to tech inspection, roll it onto the platform, lower the templates over the roof, doors, fenders, hood, trunk, everything. If the templates touched the body at every required point and didn't rock or gap beyond tolerance, the car was legal. Simple. Objective. Foolproof. Or so they thought. The templates were flat or single curve pieces designed from factory blueprints. They checked critical heights, widths, and profiles, but they couldn't capture complex three-dimensional curvature perfectly. A body panel could be subtly reshaped, moved in here, tucked there, curved differently, while still touching every template point exactly as required. The car would pass inspection, yet have dramatically better airflow, lower drag, or a smaller frontal area. Wheelbase, track width, roof height, spoiler dimensions, all had hard numbers with tiny tolerances. But the rules didn't dictate how you achieved those numbers. They only cared that you hit them when the gauges were applied. Manufacturers loved the system because it kept costs somewhat controlled. Independent teams like Smokey Yunick hated it, or rather, they saw it as a challenge. By 1966, Smokey was already a legend and a headache for NASCAR. His Hudson Hornets in the 50s, his wild Pontiacs and Chevrolets in the early 60s, his hidden fuel tanks, his nitro-soaked filters, every trick pushed the envelope harder. Officials knew when Smokey rolled into the garage, something outrageous was coming. He'd won Daytona, Darlington, Atlanta with cars that looked stock but ran like factory specials on steroids. Chevrolet gave him quiet support because his wins sold cars, but even they were sometimes shocked at how far he went. Smokey's philosophy was simple: the rulebook tells you what you can't do, not what you can. If it doesn't explicitly forbid a method, it's fair game. He read rules like a defense attorney hunting loopholes. Now, in the Aero era, he saw the template system's biggest weakness. It measured points and planes, not volumes or overall proportions. You could move metal around, thin it, offset it, curve it, as long as those magic template contact points stayed exactly where the factory drawing said they should be. The prize was massive. A smaller frontal area meant less drag at 180 miles per hour. Lower roof and greenhouse meant less lift. Tighter body meant better airflow to the rear spoiler. Lighter panels from thinning meant better weight distribution. And if you were really clever, the same stock fuel tank could hold a few extra gallons because internal volume changed with external shaping. Other teams were already playing the game. Acid-dipping bodies to thin sheet metal, hand-forming panels for better fit, using offset bushings to tweak geometry. But most stayed conservative. They shaved ounces and tenths. Smokey didn't shave. He carved. He took a brand new Chevrolet Chevelle body and decided to exploit every gray area the templates left wide open. While factory-backed teams built cars that looked aggressive but stayed safely inside the lines, Smokey asked the question nobody else dared. What if I make the whole car smaller, but still make every template happy? The rulebook never said the car had to look full-size. It only said it had to measure correctly at specific points. That was the crack in the foundation Smokey needed. And he was about to drive a truck through it. The trick reveal and how it works. So how do you build a full-size NASCAR stock car that's secretly smaller, without breaking a single measurable rule? Smokey didn't just shrink the whole thing uniformly like a Hot Wheels toy. That would never pass even basic checks. Instead, he attacked the template system's blind spots with surgical precision. First, the body panels. Smokey had them acid-dipped, submerged in chemical baths that ate away metal evenly from both sides. Stock sheet metal came thick for mass production durability. Acid dipping thinned it dramatically, dropping weight by dozens of pounds while keeping external dimensions almost identical. Thinner metal also meant panels could be formed more aggressively, curved tighter, tucked closer to the frame, without cracking. Next, the forming process. His crew handworked every panel on English wheels, planishing hammers, and custom bucks. They didn't just replicate factory shapes, they improved them. Fenders pulled in tighter at the wheels. Quarter panels kicked up sharper. The hood and trunk got subtler crowns. Every change was tiny on its own, but together they reduced frontal area and smoothed airflow. The greenhouse, the roof, side glass, A-pillars, C-pillars, was where the real wizardry happened. Stock glass was flat or gently curved. Smokey sourced or had custom glass made with compound curves that pulled the roof lower and the side windows inward while still hitting every template contact point exactly. The pillars were moved fractionally inward, thinned, and raked more aggressively. From the side, the car looked stock. From straight on, it was narrower. Wheel openings got similar treatment. The fenders were rolled and reformed so the lips sat closer to the tires, reducing drag and lift, yet the template for wheel opening height and width still dropped over perfectly. The chassis and suspension mounts weren't ignored either. Smokey used offset bushings, custom control arms, and clever bracketry to pull the wheels inward slightly, narrowing track width to the absolute minimum allowed, while keeping spindle heights and pickup points legal. Lower ride height came from careful spring perches and shock mounts that stayed within tolerances. The floor pan and rocker panels were hammered and tucked upward, lowering the overall center of gravity and letting the body sit closer to the track. Even the fuel tank played a part. By reshaping the trunk floor and rear quarters, the same stock tank shape suddenly held more volume because surrounding panels bowed inward less. Extra gallons hidden in plain sight. None of these changes were huge. A quarter inch here, an eighth there. A degree of curve added. Thinned metal by thousandths. But multiplied across the entire body, the cumulative effect was massive. The car became a scalpel in a world of butter knives. Smaller frontal area slashed drag at high speed. Smoother panel transitions reduced turbulence. Lower roof and greenhouse cut lift. Narrower track and tucked wheels improved stability. Lighter panels from acid dipping sharpened handling and acceleration. And the best part? Every single modification was designed around the templates first. Smokey started with the jigs themselves. He built the car on a fixture that held all official templates in place, then shaped the metal to touch every required point perfectly while pulling everything else inward or downward as far as physics allowed. When NASCAR lowered a roof template, It touched at the exact factory-specified locations. Same for side templates, fender jigs, spoiler gauges. The car complied, literally to the letter. But between those contact points, the body dipped, curved, and flowed in ways no factory stamping line ever produced. It wasn't one big trick. It was hundreds of tiny ones, layered and interdependent, all invisible to the flat or single-plane templates of 1960s tech inspection. Smokey later hinted it was 7/8 scale in spirit, meaning the overall volume and presence felt scaled down, even if no single linear dimension violated the max/min limits. Some insiders swear he went further, selectively shrinking certain sections more than others, using heat shrinking on panels, even custom-milled glass with optical tricks that made dimensions appear stock from inspection angles. Others claim the car was built around a slightly narrowed frame that still hit wheelbase and track numbers through clever spindle design. The truth is, no one outside Smokey's inner circle ever got the full blueprint. He took most of the details to his grave. What we do know is this: the car didn't just pass inspection, it embarrassed the system. Officials could see the advantages, feel them in the speed charts, but couldn't point to a single failed measurement. That's what made it so dangerous. It exposed the template system as theater, good for catching crude cheating, useless against precision engineering. Smokey didn't build a car that broke the rules. He built a car that made the rules irrelevant. And in doing so, he created a ghost, a machine so perfectly disguised as stock that even its creators couldn't fully explain why it was faster. That mystery is exactly why we're still talking about it today. Results and proof. The black and gold number 13 Chevelle didn't just look different, it performed like nothing else on the track. In pre-season testing at Daytona and Talladega, drivers who hopped in for a few laps came back wide-eyed. The car was stupidly fast in the draft, pulled higher top speeds with the same engine package, and handled corners like it was on rails. Fuel mileage stretched farther than any factory-backed Chevy. Qualifying times dropped jaws. It wasn't dominating by tenths, it was seconds ahead in some sessions. Crew chiefs from other teams started complaining before the car ever turned a competitive lap. That thing ain't right, they'd say. It sits too low, looks too narrow, runs too good. Drivers reported less drag, better stability at 180 plus mph, and sharper turn-in. The car simply did everything better. Then came the infamous tech inspection. At Talladega in 1966, and again in early 1968 at Daytona, officials rolled the car onto the inspection platform and went to work. Templates dropped over the roof, perfect fit. Side templates along the doors and quarters, snug. Fender jigs, hood profile gauges, spoiler height checks, every one passed clean. Wheelbase measured with laser precision in later sessions, exact. Track width, within tolerance. Ride height, legal. Even the glass and pillar checks cleared. They did it again the next day. Same result. Bill France Sr. reportedly stood there watching, getting redder by the hour. Chevrolet engineers were called in. More templates fabricated on the spot. More measurements taken from every angle. Still legal. The car wasn't just passing, it was mocking the entire system. Officials could see the advantages with their own eyes. Smaller frontal area slicing through the air cleaner, lower center of gravity planting the tires harder, tucked bodywork reducing turbulence. They knew it was faster because of the shaping, not because of some hidden engine trick. But they couldn't point to a single failed measurement. Not one dimension outside the allowed tolerance. Not one template that rocked or gapped wrong. Smokey stood off to the side, calm as ever, letting them measure until their arms hurt. Finally, after days of this, NASCAR made a decision that stunned the garage. They disqualified the car anyway. No specific rule violation was ever publicly cited. No official press release explaining what was wrong. Just a quiet but firm order: this car will not compete. Park it. The number 13 Chevelle was banned without ever turning a wheel in anger under green flag conditions. Smokey's response was pure gold. In interviews later, he laughed it off. They measured it 50 times and couldn't find anything wrong. So they just said it wasn't in the spirit of the rules. Hell, the spirit of the rules never won a race. He told reporters, "I built it smaller. Everything's proportional. They can't prove different because every template fits. That's all the rulebook asks for." The proof was in the silence. NASCAR never released a detailed report. No diagrams showing violations. No admission of exactly which rule was broken. To this day, official records are vague, body not conforming to approved configuration, or similar boilerplate. The car itself was ordered destroyed or heavily modified. Smokey reportedly cut it up himself to comply, though rumors persist that parts survived in private collections. Eyewitnesses from the era, drivers, crewmen, even some officials who've spoken off-record years later, all agree the car was visibly smaller, sleeker, meaner. Photos from the time show it next to other Chevelles, and the difference is obvious if you know what to look for. Lower roofline, tighter greenhouse, narrower stance. Yet side-by-side measurements with factory cars showed no hard violations. Lap times from private tests leaked out. The car was consistently 2 to 3 miles per hour faster on superspeedways with identical engines. That's an eternity in NASCAR terms. Other teams tried copying elements, acid dipping, tighter panel work, but none went as far. They shaved tenths. Smokey took seconds. The ultimate proof? NASCAR's reaction. If the car was truly legal, they'd have let it run and dealt with the fallout. Instead, they killed it quietly and quickly changed procedures. That ban spoke louder than any dyno sheet or stopwatch. Smokey didn't get caught cheating. He got banned for exposing the truth. The template system was only as strong as its weakest blind spot. And he'd found the biggest one anyone ever would. The ban on Smokey's mystery Chevelle didn't end the story, it changed NASCAR forever. Within months, the sanctioning body rolled out drastic changes to the inspection process. Templates got more complex. 3D jigs, multiple contact points, volume checks, and even clay modeling to verify body shapes between template stations. They introduced master body references that teams had to match more closely. Acid dipping got explicitly limited or banned in some cases. Ride height rules tightened. Fuel tank volume checks became mandatory with precise fill procedures. NASCAR basically admitted, without saying it outright, that the old template system had a fatal flaw. One man had exposed it so completely that they had to rebuild the entire rule enforcement structure from the ground up. That single black and gold car forced evolution. Teams that once pushed boundaries carefully now faced a much tighter box. Factory programs from Chevrolet, Ford, and Chrysler poured even more money into legal aero development, wind tunnels, scale models, computer simulations that were just starting to emerge. The arms race accelerated because Smokey proved how much performance was hiding in plain sight. But the bigger impact was philosophical. Smokey's trick ignited the eternal debate. What's the spirit of the rules versus the letter? NASCAR started leaning harder on vague clauses like, not in the spirit of stock car racing, or detrimental to the sport. They'd use them to ban future gray area innovations without needing hard proof. It gave officials more power, but it also bred resentment. Independents felt the system now favored big factory teams who could lobby for rule changes behind closed doors. Smokey became the ultimate folk hero for the little guy, the independent mechanic who outsmarted the corporations and the sanctioning body with nothing but brains and a welder. His legacy grew beyond that one car. Every time a modern team finds a flexi-wing, a trick floor, or an invisible aero device that passes static checks but works at speed, old-timers nod and say, that's pure Smokey. Today's Cup Series cars are engineering marvels, CFD-optimized, laser-scanned, built to tolerances measured in thousands. Bodies are checked with digital 3D scanning that leaves no curve unexamined. Fuel cells are flow-tested. Weight and center of gravity checks are ruthless. All of it traces back, in part, to that 1960s Chevelle that looked too small and ran too fast. The mystery itself became legend. Because NASCAR never fully explained the ban, the story grew in the telling. Old crewmen swear the car was a full 7/8 scale in some dimensions. Others insist it was selective shrinking combined with optical tricks in the paint and glass. A few claim Smokey used heat-shrunk panels that relaxed slightly under track temps to gain even more advantage. Smokey himself never spilled the complete recipe. In interviews and his autobiography, he'd drop hints, everything was proportional, or they measured points, not shapes, but always with that grin that said you'd never get the full truth. He passed in 2001, taking most secrets with him. Yet pieces survive. Rare photos show the car next to standard Chevelles. The difference is subtle but undeniable if you know where to look. Eyewitnesses from the garage area that day still tell the story with wide eyes. A few panels allegedly escape the torch and sit in private collections. The trick's enduring power is that it's still unsolved. Modern engineers with all their tools look at those old photos and scratch their heads. How did he pull the roof lower without failing the height check? How did he narrow the track without violating width rules? How much extra fuel did it really carry? No one has replicated it exactly, because no one knows exactly what was. That uncertainty is Smokey's final victory. He didn't just build a faster car. He built a myth, one that reminds every racer, every engineer, every rulemaker that creativity will always find a way when restrictions leave even the smallest gap. NASCAR needed villains like Smokey to evolve. His tricks forced better rules, better tech, better racing. The sport is faster, safer, and more sophisticated today because men like him refuse to color inside the lines. The 7/8 scale Chevelle, or whatever it really was, never won a race on track. But it won something bigger. It proved that in motorsport, the smartest mind can beat the deepest pockets and the strictest rulebook. And as long as there are rules, there will be someone reading between the lines, looking for the next Smokey trick. That mystery isn't going away. It's the soul of the sport. And there you have it, the Smokey trick even NASCAR never explained. A black and gold Chevelle that looked smaller, ran faster, passed every test, and got banned anyway. Still a mystery today, just like Smokey wanted. This is Torque Saga, digging up the outlaw genius that made racing legendary. If this story blew your mind, smash that like button. Drop a comment. What do you think Smokey really did? Full 7/8 scale? Acid magic? Or something wilder? Best comments might spark the next episode. Subscribe and hit the bell. We drop new forbidden tricks every week. Thanks for watching. Stay clever out there. Remember, the rulebook only wins if you let it. Until next time, keep chasing the mysteries. Torque Saga.